Welcome back to the Flying with the Flock podcast, the best place to get all of your Eagles and other NFL related news. I'm your host, Matt, and ladies and gentlemen, training camp is upon us, and today's the first day that the Eagles are going to be out on that practice field. Currently, as I'm recording this, I'm listening to Sirianni and Howie Roseman speak on how they anticipate training camp and the rest going. But before we jump into any Eagles news, we also have to cover the rest of the NFL with some major stories coming out over the past week that might impact how the NFL landscape as a whole shapes out heading into the first couple weeks of the season. Before we get started with all that, though, if y'all could leave a like and subscribe down below, that would be much appreciated. Share this podcast with anybody you know is a football fan and likes to have something on in the background as they either do some schoolwork or they do some housework, whatever it is. But feel free to share this podcast wherever you can. It would be much appreciated from me. And hopefully, with this upcoming season, I can expand some of the horizons and focus on some extra content, like fantasy football content, who I think outperformed what they were supposed to, so on and so forth, like I normally do during the regular season and such. And as we get into the preseason, I will keep you all updated with who I think is going to make the roster. I'm going to start forming my 53-man roster projection, and by the third preseason game, I will hopefully have that all ready for you. But before I get way too ahead of myself, let's just cover what's gone on over the past week or so since I haven't talked to you guys. Alright, so one of the first pieces of news that I felt like came out not too long after last week's episode was the Kyle Shanahan news that he was in a car accident, and so he will be out of the start of 49ers training camp. The head coach of the 49ers was in a car accident that landed him in the hospital for 8 to 10 hours. And this during this process, outside of securing some broken ribs and some broken fingers, and I think a broken nose, he also required plastic surgery on his face. Now, it doesn't look too different. He has a picture from his hospital bed. He doesn't look horrible, but you can definitely tell that something's off with his face. I can't exactly put a finger on it myself. But the major part of this injury that kind of has me concerned is the injury, supposedly, according to Kyle Shanahan, has caused fatigue and makes it difficult to focus for long periods of time, meaning that he can't sit down and watch film like he used to. So basically, this makes him a member of Gen Z with their short attention spans. Shanahan has taken responsibility for the crash over the past 48 hours. I think he tweeted that or put something out, a public service announcement or something. And since then, since the start of 49ers training camp yesterday, he divvied up all the responsibilities for his coaches during his absence of the first week or so of training camp. So Shanahan being out, obviously that means his assistant head coach will take over the main roles of keeping everyone organized while the position coaches really hone in on what needs to be perfected before the first preseason game. Hopefully Shanahan's there before they get to the process of cutting down the roster to the 53-man roster, and hopefully he has the ability to watch film of a lot of his the depth pieces and prospects that are on the roster currently. Hopefully he has the ability to do that. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear maybe by the end of the season that this injury was lingering into the regular season and did affect the 49ers in some ways. Hopefully Shanahan has a quick recovery. But sticking on the 49ers, I mean, I figure talking about one injury to a 49ers personnel, let's talk about how the 49ers had 4 players injured after their first day of practice yesterday, with I think the headliner being wide receiver Christian Kirk. I believe he had a hamstring injury, or was it calf? It was either calf or hamstring, but it was something with his right leg. So that kind of is not a great omen to start out the season with your head coach being in the hospital due to injury, and 4 year players already being down. Who knows if this is really an omen of things to come this season, whether the substation is really going to take out the 49ers once again, or whether they're going to actually try to find a way to stay healthy and put things together. But till the start of the season, it's going to be hard to really tell. Obviously, they brought back a lot of the pieces that were injured last regular season, that being Nick Bosa, Trent Williams, Fred Warner, a lot of staples that are on the older side, but still staples to the franchise over the past 10 years. So, yeah, 49ers, hopefully y'all can get it together before that substation comes in, takes your souls, not even just your bodies, takes your souls. Next up, I wanted to touch on Patriots training camp, because it's been 3 days since the start of Patriots training camp, so they got a little bit of a head start compared to other teams like the Eagles or the 49ers. The Patriots have looked okay at training camp, per se. What I really wanted to talk about is the Drake May and A.J. Brown issue that's currently going on with the Patriots. Currently, they are not really on the same wavelength when it comes to catching balls and running routes. Through the first 3 days of training camp, the new quarterback-wide receiver duo has been struggling to find the connection. When targeting Brown, May is 1 for 7 with an interception through those first 3 games. In May's defense, though, Brown's routes and his legs have looked awful. And so he really looks like he's giving up on a lot of these routes because he's not getting targeted. And when he does get targeted, he kind of is surprised and he has to go up for the ball, normally one-handed. And he's already being blanketed by Christian Gonzalez, the Patriots' #1 cornerback. And arguably one of the better cornerbacks in the league. A.J. Brown, it's hard to say whether he's going to regress this year. As an Eagles fan, I really hope he does. But as a human being, I really hope that A.J. Brown has a decent season this upcoming season. But it's really hard to say whether this is a Drake May not having the same timing or not being as prepared for this training camp as last training camp due to the fact that he had less of an off season, or A.J. Brown genuinely looking his age. At age 29 with bad knees, it's hard to say whether this is Brown's legs and his route running compared to May's passing ability. For Drake May's sake, I would hope that it's A.J. Brown, but also at the same time, if it's A.J. Brown, he's still going to piss and moan about not getting any form of targets. So it puts Drake May and Mike Vrabel, you could argue as well, in a fairly sticky situation. Drake May, you would hope, would develop another season coming off of an MVP caliber season, but with him only going into his 3rd year, regression is still very possible. I mean, Mac Jones really didn't regress horribly till his 3rd year. So it's hard to really say whether Mike Vrabel can and Josh McDaniels can continue to develop Drake May as a quarterback. But I personally don't think bringing in a guy like A.J. Brown certainly helped the Patriots' sake when it comes to allowing Drake May to be a dominant quarterback, which means picking and choosing the open receiver and not force-feeding the ball to the same guy 7 times a game and him only catching it twice. Also, a side note that I put down here in this Patriots section that I wanted to cover, A.J. Brown has apparently already been reamed out by head coach Mike McVrabel. That's almost what I said. Jeez. Mike Vrabel in front of the team during off-season workouts. I can only imagine that didn't go over very well in A.J. Brown's mind. Supposedly, it wasn't like horrible, but it was still enough that it caught a lot of Patriots players off guard. So we're just going to have to wait and see whether this entire situation was a mistake for the Patriots and whether they should have just let A.J. Brown be a Philadelphia Eagle or go somewhere else. But who knows? But I'm going to try to keep you all updated on Drake May and A.J. Brown, that situation as a whole, and the Patriots. If you all would like that, please leave a comment down below, and I will continue to cover them. If there's any teams that y'all would like to hear about, more about training camp, that I could dig up, please let me know as well in the comments. Whether it's, I know I got Baltimore fans, I know I got Washington fans, I know I got New England fans. I think that's kind of it. I know I have people out in Wisconsin, so maybe a Vikings or a Green Bay Packers. If you all want me to cover another team outside of the Eagles, obviously the Eagles I will go in depth with because I have the most information, I have the most sources there. I will be more than happy to do so. But you guys will have to leave a comment down below asking me to cover which specific team. Next up is the next thing I wanted to talk about was one of the two big contracts that came out yesterday. We'll touch on the one y'all are thinking about in a little bit. But first I wanted to talk about the Denzel Ward contract extension that he received yesterday. The Browns and Ward had reached an agreement on a 2-year, $62.2 million deal. I'm not sure how much of that is guaranteed. Denzel Ward, new deal, guaranteed money. $52.3 million in guarantees. So then that makes Denzel Ward the highest paid corner in NFL history when it comes to guaranteed money and overall salary. So that's just only a 2-year extension already on top of his, I believe it was a 4-year contract, which I think he's going into the 4th year of. So there was rumors that the Browns could possibly shop Denzel Ward, seeing that he was on the final year of his contract. But Ward has been one of the most underrated cornerbacks in the league. Only at age 29, with him having a Darius Slay type of mold, in my opinion, I wouldn't have been surprised if he was able to play until 33, 34. Maybe not as well as he does at 29 or 30, but I still think that he has that longevity. He has been making life a hell for opposing wide receivers. He's been one of the best guys out there. So this contract to me is less about Denzel Ward and more about the cornerback market as a whole moving forward. Obviously, Ward, well-deserved. I actually hoped that the Eagles would trade for him, but that never came to fruition, and that was before we signed Rick Woolen. So now, what I really wanted to talk about was the cornerback market for Christian Gonzalez, Quinyon Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean. Now, those three, to me, are the young top 3 cornerbacks. Yes, the Eagles have 2 of them. And you could throw Tariq Woolen in here as well, another Eagle. Those 4 guys are still fairly young in their careers, with 2 of them going into their 3rd year and 2 of them going into their 4th year. So these guys are going to be coming up on 2 contracts, big contracts, soon enough. Whether that's after they get extended on their 5th-year option gets picked up, and then they work out a deal with the team that nullifies the 5th-year option, or they work out a deal early on before they even reach their fourth season with their team. Obviously, Tariq Woolen's a fairly interesting subject when it comes to that, but we'll touch on that probably later in this season for the Eagles, whether they think that he should be extended or not, and whether they can even afford that. So a major payday is all heading their ways. So it's going to be interesting to me to see how the cornerback market, we're going to be talking about the defensive tackle market in a little bit, how the cornerback market over the next couple of years might kind of mirror what the defensive tackle market is doing right now. And we ultimately see the corners start to enclose their way closer to some of the top deals in NFL history. Outside of quarterbacks, because quarterbacks don't really count. They'll get massive deals, especially if your name's Daniel Jones when you don't deserve it. But we'll just have to wait and see how these other four guys that I mentioned are impacted over the next year or two with this Denzel Ward deal and how it kind of reset the quarterback market. Lastly, before we move on to any form of Eagles talk, we have a interesting story that I wasn't really expecting, and it's the first holdout of the NFL training camp season, that being Vita Vea, the Pro Bowl caliber defensive tackle out of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's been fairly dominant for years now, but he now seems to be disgruntled with the Bucs organization out of the blue. I don't 100% know why, and it doesn't seem like many of the insiders know why. But he's at training camp. He's just not practicing at all. This is a fairly interesting situation that the Bucs find themselves in, because as their quarterback enters a new year without a new contract, meaning that he'll be on his last year of his contract, that being Baker Mayfield, many other franchise pieces have left this offseason, leaving this news a major blow as well. Vea is older, at the age of 31, so it wouldn't be a surprise to see that he's probably going to end up ring chasing at this point in his career. This might be a sign that the Bucs are not in contention this year, and that overall they're not in a great spot organizationally. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear quite a few shakeups coming this offseason with possible head coaching firing, because Todd Bowles really hasn't done anything. Possible general manager firing, because I don't even know who that is. I mean, some of the NFL GMs, I know their names. The Buccaneers, I can tell you, ain't one. So that's fairly concerning. But overall, I will say Vita Vea, I think is kind of right to do so. He's older. If he wants to go chase a ring, he can hold in, so he doesn't really get fined. He can participate in a lot of the meetings, but outside of that, he's not really going to be doing much with the team. And so it really leaves a couple of options that could probably cheaply trade for Vita Vea. The Rams can continue their theme of building one of the best defensive lines in NFL history, you can make the argument, and bring on a Vita Vea and trying to drag Aaron Donald out of retirement. You would have a guy like Braden Fisk, Vita Vea, Myles Garrett, and Aaron Donald all on the same defensive line. That would be hell on earth for any quarterback. Or you can see the Buffalo Bills. They have a major hole at defensive tackle. And bring in a guy like Vita Vea who knows how to win, and I'm pretty sure he can stay healthy. I don't think he's ever been too unhealthy to play through a decent amount of the season. Bringing in a guy like that who has won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady back in 2020, wouldn't be a shock to see that a guy like Vita Vea could go to a team like the Bills, or a team like the Rams, or a team like the Chiefs or Bengals. I could seriously see the Bengals trading for Vita Vea to put alongside Dexter Lawrence and having one of the best defensive tackle duos in the NFL. But lest I digress, I feel like the Rams could trade for him. the Bills and the Bengals would be the top 3 teams in that order to trade for Vita Vea. Okay, jumping over to Eagles training camp news. Sticking on defensive tackles, here's what everyone probably wanted to hear me talk about. That being the Jalen Carter deal, which is finally done. This past weekend, many rumors were circulating that Carter wanted and was going to receive a massive market resetting contract before the start of training camp. So yesterday, it was during training camp yesterday, it was announced that Carter signed a 4-year, $152 million contract extension with $106 million guaranteed, making him the highest paid defensive tackle in NFL history and in the NFL currently. Both starting defensive tackles are now locked up for the foreseeable future, meaning that Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are the future of the defense alongside Coop and Q, in my opinion. Both defensive tackles, I want to say, can benefit from benefit off of each other. Jesus, I can't even speak. If you got to this episode, I apologize. I can't speak right now. Having both of them side by side, I think, was a major part of being able to sign Jordan Davis, and then Jalen Carter, I think, was a major reason why Jalen Carter was able to get such a big deal, because they knew they had a guy that could keep him in check in the defensive tackle room, and a buddy that he had all the way back in his college days. To me, it wouldn't be surprised if we see Jordan Davis get another deal first again when that time comes, just so they can prepare to have him around for when they re-up Jalen Carter. Carter, to me, needs to take a major step forward this regular season. He only registered 3.5 sacks last season. He's going to have to get at least 6 to 8 sacks. Jordan Davis is more of the run stopper, so I would expect him to get like 4 to 5 sacks. But Jalen Carter needs to be the dominant force that everyone in Philly knows he can be, watching him play. Obviously, he battled through injury last season, and I think one of the stipulations was that he had to get himself healthy, stay conditioned, and focus on himself if he wanted to get this major contract from the Eagles. And it seems like he was able to get that, and I'm fairly happy for him. This is life-changing money for him and his family. He has earned it by being the athletic freak he is and being such an effective, being one of the playmakers and game changers during that Super Bowl run that we had back in 2024. So, with all that being said, although Carter's work is not done with the Eagles, I can frankly say that I am fairly more confident in his abilities and in Jalen Carter as a whole, as a person, due to the fact that the Eagles feel comfortable enough to be able to lock him down for the next 5 years through 2031. Yes, guys, we are now at the point where NFL deals are going through 2031. I can't believe it either. That makes me feel old. I will be out of college by the time that Jalen Carter's contract is up. Just want to put that out there. That feels weird to me. I mean, I've been doing this podcast for, it'll be 2 years this upcoming September. And overall, it scares me that in another 2 years I will be done college and I will have the podcast and hopefully moving on to brighter things. But that's besides the point. I'm getting a little bit too off topic here. But happy for Jalen Carter. If the Eagles believe that they can control him and that he deserves it, then I believe it too. Next up, we got a couple of smaller stories to talk about for the Eagles training camp before the end of this episode. Fairly short episode, I do apologize. Today is the first day that we're finally going to be getting news from training camp and film. Hopefully, I can analyze some of that for y'all next week. And next week is the first preseason game on Thursday the 6th. It's the NFL Hall of Fame game, so I wouldn't be surprised if I can cover that game and try to predict how some rookies and some major pieces perform next week. Jahad Campbell, he switched his number from number 30 to number 11, and he's looking pretty good in it. That's the number that he wore down at his time in Tuscaloosa at the Alabama. Hopefully, he starts training camp strong as the interior linebacker number 2 next to Zach Bond. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. had such a strong offseason, especially at OTAs and minicamp, that I wouldn't be surprised if we hear rumors that maybe Jahad Campbell and Jeremiah Trotter could be switching off with one another, maybe with first team reps for a little bit, and then Jahad Campbell solidifies himself a little bit more. And hopefully the number 11 isn't a curse, because we had A.J. Brown, who was a diva, and Carson Wentz, who was a diva and an asshole. So hopefully Jahad Campbell is really looking forward to taking a giant leap forward in his sophomore season and not allowing guys like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. or even Samal Mondon to take a step forward in his place. Last story I kind of wanted to touch on was the safety position with the Eagles and how Vic Fangio isn't actually concerned about it. He seems fairly confident in the idea that Marcus Epps and Michael Carter II can run alongside Andrew Mukuba 70% of the time. Fangio went on the Exciting Mike's podcast, which is Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship's podcast, and stated that he wasn't concerned about the safeties that he had. He was fairly happy with their plays during the offseason, and he knows that he has 2 veterans to fill in that hole. Who wins out? We're going to be covering that. I will have more information with you for you next week. But I wouldn't be surprised if we hear that Marcus Epps has a strong case for starting alongside Andrew Mabuka when Cooper DeJean isn't at safety. And Michael Carter, I think, could give him a run for his money. He's fairly talented. He's able to make the transition from corner to safety. Overall, I do think that that Michael Carter could become a solid safety, but I want to see them in preseason games, see how see their ability at the safety position, especially Michael Carter, before I make any assumptions about how they are as a player. But I believe Marcus Epps could probably come in and play a solid role. He was a safety back during the Super Bowl 57 run for the Eagles, so I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting the nod from Fangio, and he looks solid. He wasn't horrible with the Raiders when he was back with them. He didn't look horrible when he had to fill in last season for the Eagles. I was just hoping for a better option at the safety position. But what Vic Fangio was more concerned about was the depth at tight end. I mean, outside of Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, who just locked up, you currently have Moro Ojomo, who's going to be great. He might not be with the Eagles after the season, but he's fighting for a new contract, so other teams will take a look. And hopefully he has a great season. You have Gabe Hall, who's like, I don't think he's even going to make the roster. You have Ty Robinson, who the Vanilla Gorilla has a lot of promise, but I'm not sure whether he's going to be the best defensive tackle for the Eagles to keep on their roster. There's one more guy. Eagles roster. Depth chart. Let's go to defensive tackle. And Byron Young. And Moro Ojomo, I feel it could be the 2 good alternates behind Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. Ojomo being a solid pass rusher, Byron Young being a big guy that's able to block up some of the holes. Both have a similar role to that Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis have on the starting defensive line. So that really leaves Ty Robinson in the lurch, and Uar Bernard, who is going to have to really fight for a roster spot if he wants it. If the Eagles, everybody's saying maybe the Eagles could put him on the international player exempt list. My only problem with that is Uar Bernard would have to clear waivers, which means any team could pick him up. And even if he does, he is a technical practice squad spot, so the Eagles could possibly have him poached off of their team. So it's really hard to say where Uar Bernard is going to place at. I think Bernard makes the roster. I think he'll be the 53rd man, but I think he makes the roster as a depth piece. But who knows? Obviously, I would like to see how he runs with the third-team defensive line. I don't think he'll make second-team defensive line unless he has a stellar training camp over the first couple of weeks and he works his way next to Byron Young or Moro Ojomo. They have Moro Ojomo listed as a first-team defensive tackle, so realistically their second team would be Byron Young, Ty Robinson, or either Uar Bernard or Gabe Hall. So it's kind of hard to say at that point. But hopefully this defensive tackle depth kind of shapes itself up in training camp. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear that Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Moro Ojomo are quite dominant, while Byron Young is a really solid depth piece. Uar Bernard is making strides forward, and Ty Robinson and Gabe Hall are quite disappointing. But we'll have to wait and see. But that's just my predictions for some of the depth pieces at the defensive tackle position. Before we finish up, some final news. Eagles pass rusher Jonathan Greenard has recently suffered a pectoral injury after lifting weights and will begin training camp on the PUP list. The Eagles, and even while I was watching that broadcast of Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni speaking, they touched on the topic. The team believes that this injury is not significant at all, and he should be back sooner rather than later. So give him like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, and I think Jonathan Greenard will be back starting on the defensive line. But best wishes for Greenard. I hope you get better quick, bud, and we really need you on that defensive line. So hopefully Greenard. We have Uar Bernard and Jonathan Greenard both can get a lot of playing time so we can see him on the defensive line. All right, so that's it for this NFL training camp episode. This is episode 1 of the training camp, so next week I will have a lot more information from Eagles training camp to dissect. Again, if any of y'all would like me to talk about any news or any under-the-radar teams that you think deserve more coverage, feel free to leave a comment down below or tweet me at our Twitter. It should be in our bio. So one of the two spots, and I shall respond as soon as possible. So, again, thank you all for listening to this episode. Feel free to share it as well. Leave a like and subscribe. And before I let you go, remember, go Birds.